Welcome to Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide. Every journey holds a story. By sharing the wisdom of those who came before us, we keep their legacy alive for generations to come. Join me, Brennan Lane, as we explore the wild through the eyes of a Maine Guide. So we're here today with Brennan Bishop from Foggy Mountain Guide Service in Charleston, Maine.
Thanks for having me up here today, Brandon.
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it. But yeah, it's been a wild ride since we started, since I started my guiding career. I work for the previous owner, Wayne Boswick there, who started Foggy Mountain in 1964. And I was able to start working for him right out of high school. And, when he had a lot of stories. I mean, when he started bear hunting, there wasn't even a bear season. I mean, he hunted for the state, going around the state killing and harvesting nuisance bears for him. But we got, us guides today need to thank people like him who introduced the bears to the big game list. And that's why we have a season and are able to do what we love today. So
It was him and Donnie Hellstrom.
yeah, him and Donnie Hellstrom and, there's another one too. I can't think of his name, but yeah, I mean, and a lot of them started off, dog hunting and did the bait hunting as well, but they put a lot of time and money and effort into being able to, hunt bear the way we do today.
So he started in 1964, you said?
Yeah, he started in 1964. He was actually an iron worker, and when he wasn't bear hunting, he was working the iron out of state, and through his travels and stuff, he started, telling people that he bear hunted, and people had never really heard of it before. So, people started coming up and hunting with him, and that's essentially how he started the business, and it just grew from there. And he had a set of sporting camps in Canada as well. And the reason he got the camps in Canada was when they ended the spring season here. He was able to still spring hunt up there, but he sold them in around 2008 or so. It was such a long haul to get up there, and the bear hunting was just as good here as it was up there. So, he was quite a guy, that's for sure. He was known as the dean of the Maine woods. So.
And when did you buy the business from him?
Me and my wife Becky bought it in 2016. Wayne was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and it was funny. He called me in the spring like he would every year, just to discuss things that need to be done for the year. And we went down, and he looked at us. He goes, "Well, I think it's time to take my name down and hang yours up." What are you talking about? He's like, "Well," he goes, "I got cancer," and he goes, I think it'd be a good suit for you to continue on with the business." And we were kind of floored at, we didn't even know what to think or say, we jumped on it and been going strong ever since. So
How old would that made you when you guys took it over?
23, I believe. Yeah, 23.
Yeah.
So, but it was nice though. I mean, I'd worked for him, previously from right out of high school. So, and he really took me under his wing. I mean, he showed me stuff that he would never shown anybody else. And, he's a pretty secretive guy when it came to different things. And, it was nice, and it felt quite an honor, that he trusted us to continue on the business that, he took so long to build. So.
You must have had some stories about back in the day that he told you.
Oh yeah. There's a million. I mean, one that comes to mind, he was telling me the biggest bear he shot over in they harvested with dogs over in KI. He said it was close to 600 pounds, and he said they got up to it and they're looking at it like, holy, how in the world, they wanted to get to scale, so he said they had at that point in time they were running scouts. And so we run out to the truck. Yeah, run out to the truck, and they were cutting wood up the road there a couple miles. So he drove up, and one of the guys there was unhitching a load of logs off the skidder. And he says, "Man, could I pay you $25 to go drag this bear out?" He said the guy jumped all over that. He said he hopped in his skidder, away he went. He said he drove right down through the middle of the woods, hooked onto that bear, drove right to where the tree was, dragged the bear right to the truck, he said, and helped him load it. But yeah, it was a lot of great stories like that, and yeah, I mean, he was just very, very knowledgeable of everything when it came to bear hunting for sure.
So he must have been hunting when they used to have that 6-month season, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, he started right from the get go. When he first started, he could hunt 365 days a year as long as the bears were out. He was hunting. And then he was, he started off hound hunting is how he started, and then eventually, they started limiting that, and so he went to bait hunting. He still ran hound some, but
This episode was brought to you by M&M Auto Service in Fort Kent, Maine. If you're ever in the North Country and find yourself in a bind, give Zach a call. Him and the guys will get you back on the road as soon as possible. Tell us a little bit about what you do now.
So now we still bear hunt. That's what we specialize in. We hunt 4 weeks of bait, and then we start dog season. We have 2 different camps that we run out of. We hunt the K.I. Joe Mary area, and we also, a couple years ago, in 2020, I guess, we bought the original Comstock logging camps, and we converted them into a lodge, and we'd always bait hunted in that area, and we got baits up there as well. So it was a perfect spot for us in the middle of our area, and so it works good. We do bear hunts. We do some moose hunts as well. And in the wintertime, we bobcat hunt and hunt snowshoe rabbits.
You also do turkey in the spring too, don't you?
Yep. We're just a couple weeks away from the start of turkey season, and we see plenty on the ride up today. So it's looking like it's going to be a good spring.
So when you get the camps of 2020, that was the first year that I got it for you down there, right? For the adaptive hunt?
Yep. So that was...
I got railroaded into that.
Yeah. So I acquired the camps late fall or early in the spring of 2020. And, I mean, it was a lot of work. The camps hadn't been open or operated for 6 years, I believe, at that point in time. And, I mean, they were disarray there. And, of course, COVID started. So the first night we stayed up there to start work, it was March 16th. And we blocked off one of the rooms. It was my father and my grandfather and Becky, and we took, I think there was 6 buddy heaters up, and we camped in what's the lounge area now. But yeah, we started work up there in March, and we laid the last floor the night before hunters arrived in September. And I mean, the only time we went home was to get supplies to turn around and go back up and work some more. I mean, it was a hectic year for us, but it all worked, and it's worked out great. I mean, it's 26 miles from Hot Top. So, when you go to town, it's not just it's a day trip. So.
I remember you calling there when the first trips in, and you still had all that snow, and you got Becky's truck buried.
Oh yeah. I had probably 2 ton of flooring in the back of the truck, and I looked, and there's a frost heave about 4 feet deep. I was committed. I put her in 4-wheel drive and put her to the floor, and it was a mess. But yeah, no, it's been good, and we really enjoy it up there. Hate to leave in the fall, after the fall season's over. But
I will say we've, unfortunately, under the circumstances, I've been there, I think, every fall since on the adaptive hunt, either guiding for you or hunters of our own there. And it's a beautiful place. Yeah. You've done a good job with that.
Well, thank you. A lot of work. Everybody says, oh, it must be nice to be a Maine guide. Well, they don't realize, you work twice as hard as everybody else, but, it's very rewarding. You meet great people from not all over, not just all over the United States, but all over the world. I mean, I have, repeat hunters from Australia that come. I've guided people from Russia. I mean, all over, it's great.
That's one of Brittany's biggest pet peeves. And someone says, well, it must be nice to do what you do and have what you have. But like you said, though, they don't see the work. And I mean, it's a lifestyle. It's not a living, it's a lifestyle. And what you got to put into it to be able to do this and this only.
Absolutely. No, it's definitely a lifestyle. And, I'm fortunate, my wife's a guide as well, Becky, and she's right by my side through the whole thing. And she guides as well. So, it's a family affair. But, in the summertime when everybody's out to the lake having barbecues, you're you're in the woods getting bait sites ready and running dogs, and
we're swatting mosquitoes.
Just
to take and get baits ready for the fall.
Yep. It's a year round,
And You like you said though, it is one of the things there. We're lucky to have the wives that we have because there's
Absolutely.
no way I would ever be able to do what I do,
No.
without my wife and the family supporting it.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's a, most people, plan their schedule around dates and stuff, but, we have to plan ours around seasons, you know,
Yeah.
and, but no, she enjoys it just as much as I do. And, you know, we got 2 daughters, and our oldest, she's turned into a great hunter, and I'm sure the youngest one will too.
Well, not too long ago here today, I remember you saying a story about you wish you could shoot a buck bigger than your daughters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell
I
us a little
wish
bit
I
about
could.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple years ago there, of course we lose 2 weeks of deer season because we're doing the adaptive hunts up north there. So we come home and we're still trying to get our life in order and stuff. And my daughter really likes to deer hunt. Well, we started sneaking up to where our blind was, and I look and there's 3 does about 150 yards from us. So we creep up and I get her all set up on her rest, and we sat there, and about every 5 minutes we'd creep ahead. The deer took off, and we were able to get in the blind. So, I was being foolish. I made a little video on my phone. We're up here in Saskatchewan deer hunting, and never knowing that this deer would, within an hour would step out. And we were sitting there, an hour had gone by. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I look down the field, and all I can see is horns coming out of the alders. And I'm like, Austin, grab your gun. And usually, she's looking around and trying to see what it is. And she knew, but just by my tone, that I was being serious. So she gets her gun all set up on the rest, and she looks through the scope. She goes, "Dad, I can't see. My scope's all fogged up." Well, at this point in time, we got this huge buck, coming out towards us, and she can't see. So I'm trying to wipe her scope and get it so she can see. And I remember the first words out of her mouth were, "Dad, look at them horns." I said, "Don't look at the horns, just make the shot." And the buck come out and finally turned broadside there, and she made a shot and dropped him right in his tracks with a 350 legend there. And man, that was I've experienced a lot of hunts, but that by far was probably one of my favorites. So
It was big too, right?
yeah, scored 168, I believe, and some change. So yeah, it was 13 points. Had a little drop tine on one side, and it was cool.
Dad's got some catching up to do.
Yeah, I sure do. And even Becky killed a nice buck there last year, right up by camp, actually in the big woods, and that one weighed 196 pounds, 8 points. So.
This episode was brought to you by Pelletier Taxidermy. For all of your taxidermy needs, give Troy a call. Troy specializes in bear, moose, and deer, located in Fort Kent, Maine. Make sure you get that memory to last a lifetime on your wall.
Yeah, we all like to hunt. We just, living this life, you don't get to deer, not just deer hunt, but hunt as much as you'd like to, but you get to enjoy it through other people. They get to harvest a lot of their first animals, and it's a good time.
Well, that's one thing everyone always asks. Like, you don't hunt. You haven't killed a bear. You haven't done this and you haven't done that. Well, my answer back to him is yes. I've killed 70 bear this year.
Right.
I've been a part of all these kills with the hunters. Whether it's a bait hunt or a dog hunt or trapping, or even with deer. When you're guiding deer hunters and moose and that stuff. Like, to me, I get more enjoyment out of watching someone else pull the trigger and the excitement in that than I do myself.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you get to meet so many great people, and I love seeing kids get in the woods. I mean, the kids are the future of hunting, and if tell everybody, grab a kid, if even if they've never hunted before, get them to the woods, show them some sign, and just get them out there. And we need youth in the hunting industry and sport. So.
I mean, we wouldn't have been here where we are today if someone wouldn't have taken us out as a kid.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure. I used to hound my father it didn't matter what it was. We needed to get to the woods to hunt or scout or something. So.
Well, I remember back in the day as kids growing up. Before me and my brother was even old enough to hunt, would go with my grandparents every north up here for 4 or 5 days bird hunting. And then during deer season, we was always bugging my uncle, my grandfather, my father, can we tag along with you? And carried a little Red Rider and felt like we were something special going to the woods. But them are the days that I look back on, remember, and reflect that's why I am what I am today. And where I am today was because of the the men in my life there that whether they wanted to or not, they did it. And
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for what they sacrificed and did for us.
Absolutely. No, and I can remember when they changed the age for youth to be able to hunt at any age. When I grew up, you had to be 10 years old to hunt. Man, I used to be so mad I couldn't take a gun. 8 years old, I knew darn well that I could shoot a gun.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't. You couldn't. It wasn't legal to. And that's one good thing. I would say that IF&W has done and got passed is, kids under 10 can hunt, and that's huge. But no, absolutely, it's I can remember my parents bought me for my 10th birthday. I went on a bear hunt with hounds, and that's what really hooked me with dog hunting and bear hunting in general. That was crazy.
I remember back my first year, it would have been the summer that I was 10 there, 9, 10. My parents told me that if I wanted a gun to hunt with that fall, I had to, do something for work, find some way to make some money to buy a gun. Well, I drove my lawnmower all over North Anson there, up and down the dirt roads, mowing lawns and this and that. And that's back when you used to be able to go to Walmart and buy a gun over the counter. And they had a 410 single shot H&R. I walked out of there with a gun and a couple boxes of slug and bird shot for $110.
Yeah.
I was proud as a kid. I still have that gun.
Absolutely.
And that's part of the reason that we're getting into what we're getting into today is because like the kids aren't made to really work for anything.
No.
They're given it.
Absolutely. No, work ethic today seems like it's a thing of the past. That and common sense isn't so common. But no, it's I can remember my parents bought me I think it was a Rossi 20 gauge 22. You could interchange the barrels on it. Man, that gun, I probably wore the barrel out on that thing shooting. But no, it's first turkeys. You remember all that stuff, and but like you said, if it wasn't for our parents and stuff getting us out in the woods at an early age, we probably wouldn't be here today where we are. So.
No. And I don't know about you, but I come from a family that more or less just deer hunted. We applied for moose tags and stuff like that, but like they all had blue collar jobs and work for a living, and we hunt 4 Saturdays, maybe 5 Saturdays a year during deer season.
Yep, exactly. My father, same way. He hunted as much as he could. He worked during the week and hunted weekends, and I remember I must have been 8 years old or so, and it was right around Thanksgiving somewhere in that time, and I was out with them behind their house there, and I always wanted to venture off. And he said, "You can't get out of my sight. You got to be with me." And finally, he says, "Well, we can do a circle here." He goes, "I'm going to stay right here, and you can make a loop around, come back to me." Well, I remember I just started this circle, and I looked up, and I see this great big buck coming. I was pointing, and he's looking at me, and he see the buck, and he got a crack at it, and he tracked it late that night. And I remember the snow was, to me, heck, it felt like it was up to my shoulders. I couldn't go, little short legs, and so he ended up taking me back to the house there, and him and a buddy of his there, they went out the next day and were able to get it, and it was a beautiful, beautiful 8-point. Still to this day, I'm pretty sure I see it first, but no, and that deer's on the wall. So, but no, it's a lot of great memories, and even today, they still, my parents, grandparents, they still come up to the lodge and help any way they can. And come fall, as it's all hands on deck.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I remember back when my first year there. I think my second year was on Youth Day. Me and my grandfather was sitting on this oak ridge, and I was leaned up against a tree, and he was like 5 feet from me. And we hadn't sat down for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden he just started snoring. And he snored for the first half hour, and he was still going. Well, as he's snoring there, I can hear something walking in the lease. And this doe come up over the ridge about 15 yards from us there. And I shot it. When I shot it, it about took him off there. And I don't know who ran off that ridge faster, him or the deer, when he heard that gunshot. I won't forget. I told us that's why you don't fall asleep. And he about had a heart attack right there.
I remember my first deer. My father and his buddy there, Wayne, they'd scouted a piece, and it was right on the edge of an apple orchard. Well, my father had carpal tunnel surgery, so his hands were all bandaged up, So they made me a shooting rest, and it was like 2:30. I look up the edge of this apple orchard, and I see a deer coming. Well, I'd heard of a big buck they'd been seeing right there. Well, I look, I just see some horn sticking up. I said, "Oh, there's a giant one coming," and it come down, and it was a spike horn. But I made the 130-yard shot and flopped him over right there, But it's stuff like that you never forget.
This episode was brought to you by Foggy Mountain Guide Service in loving memory of Wayne Bodstridge. If you're looking for a guided black bear hunt with dogs or over bait, or a moose hunt in zones 4 or 8, be sure and give Brennan a call, and him and Becky will set you guys right up. You must have some stories that bring back of your guiding career.
Oh yeah, we got all kinds, but one of the more memorable ones that I can think of right offhand, bait hunting. I had a group of guys. They're repeat hunters now. I mean, it was the first year they come up, but they've hunted many years with us now. They put them on a bait site, and it was real good baits, and it was early in the afternoon, and my phone rang, and it was Martin. He goes, "Brandon, I just killed a bear." I said, "You did?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But I jumped out of my tree stand." I said, "You jumped out of your tree stand?" I said, "Are you okay? You hurt?" He goes, "Oh no, I'm good. I'm good." He says, "The bear's laying right up against my ladder," he says, and I weren't climbing down the ladder. I said, "Well, just stay there. You could be hurt." I said, "I'll be right there." So I got up there, and this bear's laying, dead as a doornail right against the ladder. And I said, "Tell me the story." He goes, "I was sitting there watching the bait, and I heard something. I looked down." He goes, "The bear's right at the base of my tree stand." He goes, "So I turned a little bit and got my gun ready." He goes, "The bear started climbing the ladder." And he says, "When it got to the top," he goes, "I just shot." And he goes, he goes, "I've never seen a bear before." He says, "I didn't know if it was still alive or what." And he says, "So I weren't climbing down my ladder." He says, "I jumped." I said, "Holy cow, it's a good thing you didn't get hurt," and it's, we laugh about it every time they come up now, and him and his father, and, it's a family ordeal every time they come up, and great people, they're not just friends, they're family now. And yeah, there's all kinds, a hound hunting story that I can think of just happened a couple of years ago. It was our first day of hound season, and we went to a bait. There'd been a nice bear there, and we let the dogs go. It didn't take them long to get the bear jumped, and they'd only run it about a half a mile or so, and they went to baying, walking. So we run down around the corner trying to cut them off, and we just missed them. I mean, the dogs were right side the road. Told the hunter, I said, "Well, we can get up around the corner there, and we should be able to intercept them." So we come up around the corner, and the dogs are working their way to us, and I can hear this thing coming through the woods. I mean, it sounded like a bulldozer. At that point in time, I hadn't laid eyes on this bear. And, the dogs were really talking to him, and there was an old twitch road right there. That was probably, you could see down at probably 70, 80 yards, and there's a brook right at the end of it. And you could hear him come through the brook. So I'm watching down this twitch road, and I can see the silhouette of the bear coming. I said, "Oh, this is a good one." And, the dogs were coming behind it. So I told the hunter, I said, I grabbed him right by the shirt, and I said, "Listen," I said, "we're going to have this bear come out on the road." I said, "But don't shoot until I tell you." He goes, "Okay." This first time he'd ever been hound hunting, and the bear's coming, 60 yards, 40 yards. And the bear come right out, within probably 10 yards of us. Well, at that point in time, all the dogs see us, and they, coming over to us. Well, he went to take a step back. Well, when he did, he tripped over one of the dogs. And I have him by the shoulder, so he kind of pulled me down at the same time. And I'm going, I'm kind of hauling at the dogs to come over towards us. And finally, I grab him by the shoulder and pull him up by the shirt collar. And he stands up, and at that point, there was a good, clean shot. I said, "Shoot now." Boom, he shot and dropped the bear right there, but it was like 425-pound bear, and it was literally 3 feet away when he pulled the trigger. And he turned around, he's white as a ghost. He goes, "Wow." He goes, "I never envisioned bear hunt to end like this." He goes, "That was crazy," but it's, it's cool you get to see that stuff. And
that's one of the things that does it for me is like the excitement. Like last year there, we had a group of bait hunters in camp, And they were from the east, down in Maryland, I think, down that way someplace. And they were when they arrived there, it was the first week of dog season, and they were like anti-dog and it's too easy and this and that. Well, the hound hunters tagged out, and then they decided I convinced them into going along for a day, just to show them the ropes to see it weren't easy, and their outlook completely changed on the three of them from that.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes from packing a bear 3/4 of a mile out of the woods and being involved with the whole thing from start to finish, it's with dogs, it's not about the thrill to kill.
No.
I mean, if you're in it for the thrill to kill, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. Like, to me, it's listening to the dogs, raising the pups, watching them go up through. And like with the hunters pick up on that stuff too.
Absolutely.
Like they see that.
Well, just like training season, I really enjoy training season because you get to tree them, go in, look them all over. You can tell if it's a boar or sow, and grab your dogs. And
it's a lot easier to walk away from the tree and grab your dogs and walk away and leave the bear in it than it is when you got to get the bear out.
Absolutely.
To me, the work starts once the gun's fired.
Yep.
I just soon go along and listen to the dogs, watch the dogs work, than I would, deal with quartering a bear up or dragging a bear out.
Yeah, dragons for the birds. We quarter everything just because it's just so much easier.
Even now, I mean, all of our moose, last year, I think we killed 31 moose out of our camp there, and we might have brought 3 back whole. The rest of them we all quarter. I even got a lot of the older guides now that guide for us. They might start on it, and they call them the reinforcements, and we all go help. But as far as hound bears there, I don't bring hardly any out whole.
No, we bring all of our bait hunted bears out whole, just because it's usually not that far of a drag.
You must have hunters that make good shots, because we bring a few out quartered.
Yeah, no, a lot of our hunters make good shots, but we go through rigorous orientation and get them to, the shot is what counts. It don't matter, bigger is always better for a caliber, but I've seen bears harvested with a 243. It's not my recommendation, but it's all about the shot placement at the end of the day.
Last year we had a couple of kids, and I think they were using 223s, and they both shot bear and killed them instantly. One of them was like a 370-pound boar, and it didn't go 10 feet. But then you get some people that use a 45-70 and shoot in the front leg, and that just adds a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well, what the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize with bear is, they're not like a deer or something that is gonna, once they're shot, they're gonna go bed down. These bears just go and go and go, and it definitely makes for some long nights in the woods, that's for sure.
Now, I know you got some moose stories, because I remember being a part of a few of them down there in Zone 4.
Yeah. No, we got plenty of moose stories. I got some couple of really good moose guides that work for me as well, and they got more. But I'll never forget a couple of years ago there. We had a long day. Because we dog hunt as well during the moose season, and I was soaked. I got back, my feet had been wet all day. One of them days you just can't wait to get back and take your boots off. I come through the door and went to sit down, and one of the guys come over and he says, "Well, you ready?" I said, "Ready for what?" He says, "We got to go pack a moose." He goes, "We just killed a big bull." I said, "Oh, you're bluffing me." He goes, "No, we got to go." So I took off my wet boots and put on some dry ones, and away we went. And we had like a half a mile, little less than a half a mile pack, but they'd killed this moose out in a big bog. There was about 8 inches of water in it, which it worked out good. We had some bear hunters in camp, and we had enough packs. I conned enough people into going that we only had to make, one trip in, one trip out. But that was, I don't think we ever got back to camp that night till 11:30 or so. That made for a long night, but there's some happy hunters.
That's one thing I'm finding out more, like with our clients, is like when it comes time to pack one out, everybody wants to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And it goes back to like the old school deer camp there, or the tagging stations and that. Everyone waits around. Like if I come back to the lodge or send an in-reach message back to the lodge and say I got a bear I got to pack out, or a big bear that we got to drag out, or a moose down, or whatever. It's hard telling. I might ask for one person, but usually there's a half a dozen, 10 people that show up, from clients to guides to whoever's around. 'Cause everybody wants to be a part of it.
Makes it a lot easier for us, that's for sure.
Makes it a lot easier and more enjoyable
Yeah.
too. I mean, the more people around, the better the experience for everybody.
Absolutely. Everybody gets to enjoy it at that point in time, for sure.
Last fall, I swore I weren't ever going back to Zone 4. And Joel called me there, one of the guys that guides for us, and he got drawn for a tag and had me down for a subcommittee. And I was all excited until he told me it was in the 4 North there. So I remember we got packed up and we went down there and we took and hunted, I think, Monday through Thursday, right? Me and Joel.
Yep. Yeah, because I had a hunter, I believe, and we tagged out. I was in the North Zone that week, and we tagged out, and then you had to go somewhere.
Yeah, that's when I fell down and bumped my head and thought I want to get a job at the mill, so I had to go back Friday for my physical there.
Yeah.
And I was going to come back on Saturday, but you and Jesse said you'd take him out Friday.
Yeah. We ended up, me and Jesse took him out, and heck, the moose are moving that morning. I think we see 4 moose that morning before we finally got one to stick around long enough for Joel to get a crack at. But yeah, it was it worked out great. It was fun.
The story there where Jesse said that he got out and he looked down through the gun there and said, "I think I can hit that." And Jesse's like, "Well, why don't you shoot it?" He said, "Well, I need a bullet first."
Yeah. We trying to think. So that morning, first thing we come around a corner and there's a little cut on the right hand side, and there was a black blob out there, and I thought it was a stump, honestly. And we stopped for a minute and got the binoculars up, and it was a cow. But I mean, we no more than opened the doors, and I mean that thing took off like the wind. So we went in that road, come back, and we checked another road, and got to the end of it, and we're coming back out, and I looked, and there was a huge cow with a calf standing there, and same thing. We no more than got out of the truck, and that thing took off. A banshee, both of them did. So, but we knew, they were moving that morning. We should have some luck at some point in time. And we checked a few more roads, and we were working our way back out. We took another side road and come down around the corner, and I look, there's a great big cow standing there in the middle of the road. So I just threw the truck in park, and Joel got out, looks up through his scope. He turns around, looks at me and Jesse, goes, "Yeah, I think I can hit it." So we'll shoot. So he reaches in his pocket and gets a bullet, puts one bullet in his gun. And so I'm watching the moose with binoculars. And just as soon as he shot, I mean, I could see it throw its head. I said, "Oh, did I hit it?" I said, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did." We jumped back in the truck. It was a pretty good shot. It was probably 170, 180 yards there. And we drove up there and we're looking for tracks in the road where the moose was. And I happened to look off to the left, and there it was, piled up in the ditch. I said, "You got your moose?" And we took some good pictures there with them, and I was able to back the truck right down into the ditch and load her up with a capstan winch, and away we went. So it was a good time.
I tell you, he was very thankful and appreciative of that. He can't say enough good about you guys.
Yeah, that's good. No, Joel's a good guy.
He is.
Yeah.
Call him our Allagash grandfather.
Yeah. No, I don't know whose smile was bigger, his or Jesse's.
Probably Jesse. He realized he was done for the season.
No, it's a good time, and you never know. Up being where camp is up there off the Golden Road. I mean, we're one of the first places that everybody hits when they are headed back towards civilization. So, we're always fixing flat tires for people, or people swing. We have Wi-Fi and stuff there, so people can make a phone call. So there's always something going on. People, stopping, and we'll help anybody as much as we can, so.
That's what it's all about.
Yep, absolutely. But from flat tires to people lost, you never know what you're going to see up there,
What's a few things that make your life guiding easier? Like if you had to pick 3 things that you wouldn't want to go in the woods without, what would it be?
Well, I'd say a pocket full of bullets is the first thing. Good equipment, guiding like this, you really need good equipment. It don't matter what you're doing, whether it's good packs, good boots, good clothing. I mean, you need everything that's going to withstand, what you put it against. And I guess that another good thing, you got to surround yourself with good people. That's at the end of the day, we all have, guys that work for us, and you got to surround yourself with good people to be successful.
I find you get guys that work for you that are workers, and you get guys that are partners with you, and
Right.
you're on an equal level. And
Absolutely.
we've been lucky enough to surround us with people like that, that they're not employees. I mean, we work together, but we're all on the same level.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And the guys we got working for us, I mean, they're great. I mean, they couldn't ask for any better. I got one other story I could tell about moose. It was before the moose season, which
I hope it ain't a story about
no,
harvesting
no,
moose.
no. If I knew then what I knew now, I'd go out every once in a while because I was a moose hunting up there at that point in time. But I'd go out in the mornings and try to call a bull in. Well, me and Becky and one of the guys that works for us, Charlie, we were gonna go try and call a moose one morning. So we went down to a spot that I knew there was quite a few moose in, and I started calling. Well, instantly I had a bull responding, and he's coming in on a string. And at the point I had an old junk cell phone, but I had a video camera. So this bull comes in, and he's literally probably 15 feet from me raking the bushes. Well, I grabbed a big long stick and I started raking the bushes. Well, his eyes are rolled back in his head and the snot's coming out of him. He starts working his way into the ditch there, and I hit a stick there right in front of him. And he jumped down, and he went to thrashing that stick. Well, I look back, and Becky and Charlie take off running. She had my Crocs on, and
you ain't crocking, you ain't rocking.
Yeah, exactly. She takes off. They both took off running. I'm left there. I'm like, man, this isn't a good spot to be. So I took off running. And I finally caught up to them, and I'll never forget Becky. You better not leave me here, she says. We got back, and it was a beautiful bull. He was 50-inch bull, but yeah, no, that was another real good moose, that I could think of. And
I've had a lot of them experiences where I'm doing something and I probably shouldn't. And I turn around and look, and whoever's with me is running behind me there.
Yeah,
it happens quite often.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's
say pick your friends wisely, but
yeah,
I don't think I picked them too wisely.
You just want to be faster than whoever's with you.
Yeah.
I'm usually pretty slow though. So
well, I remember something like that. The little story there back. This was, I don't know, probably 2018, 2019. I had a couple of Amherst clients of mine there, and they'd harvested bear, and they were riding around with me baiting baits after I dropped the hunters off. Well, we walk into this one bait there, and I heard something, and I really weren't paying much attention to it because, you always run into different animals out there. Well, all of a sudden, I heard that noise that you can't mistake once you hear it, and it was like toenails climbing the tree. Well, I turned around and looked to my left there, and there was a pine tree probably 10 feet away, and there's two cubs that ran up the pine tree. Well, at that point in time, I'm like, all right, where's Mom? And I started looking around, and all of a sudden she started woofing and puffing, and she come running down off that bank. I dumped the buckets of bait, and I ran back to the truck. When I ran by the Amish guys, I told them, you better run. And they thought I was joking. Well, I got back to the truck, and I no more got back to the truck, and here they come out of the woods huffing and puffing. I said, what's the matter? They're like, you weren't joking. I said, no, I weren't joking. If you see me run, you better be running. I don't run for no reason. Then just the look on their face was speechless because that bear just started chasing me down out of there. And as it was chasing me, they see it and they took off running there. After that, they realized that when
you're running,
when I'm running, they better run.
Yeah, I think it was the second year I started working for Wayne Guiding there. It was the last Friday of the bait hunt, and we had a hunter come back and said that they'd shot a bear, but it took off from the bait. I said, oh, no big deal. So, everybody, at the end of the week, everybody's all excited. And so I grabbed, I don't know, those four of them. We went down to the bait site, and we get down to the bait, and I'm looking the situation over, and there was, good blood trail, even the bait. And as you know, bears don't really bleed very much. So I said, oh, this is going to be a drop in the bucket. This bear ain't going to be far. So I start tracking it, and we're going. Man, this bear can't be much further. Then I got into some real thick stuff. By this time, it was pitch dark. We got flashlights. So I'm crawling on my hands and knees. I got my pistol in my hand. And, it was bad. You're just crawling through the worst stuff you'd ever seen in your life. I shine my light up, and there's a big opening there. And there the bear laid. It was all sprawled out. You couldn't have pulled all four legs and had it sprawled out anymore. They were all right behind me. I said, yeah, we got him, boys. So I jumped up. I walked over and not even thinking, I walked up and kicked the bear. Well, that bear was not dead. That bear turned around. I had Carhartts on at the time, and it grabbed a hold of the bottom of my pant leg. I mean, it was just pure reaction. You know what I mean? I shot it a couple times. And then, I mean, all the furs are shaking, and there was hollering going on. And I said, turned around, and nobody was standing there. I said, hey, guys, where are you? There was guys picking themselves up here, trying to find their hats and glasses. One guy stands up. I'll never forget. He had his hat off, cockeyed, that he just picked up. He goes, I think you put John Wayne to shame, he says. You know, so you never know what's going to happen, you know, but it's stories like that, you know, that's what makes our career so enjoyable.
That's my main reason behind doing this, is just to get the stories out there that aren't told and get them written down to your grandkids and great grandkids.
Absolutely.
You know, they'll have something to look back at someday and reminisce and remember what it used to be like.
Yeah, and pictures, you know, take as many pictures as you can. We're all, I'm sure, bad about taking pictures. I mean, we do it every day. We see it and, you know, don't think much about it. But, you know, that's really important.
That's one thing where I was looking through pictures here the last couple of months, is I don't really have anything from 18 and younger.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I wish I would have taken more pictures, you know, growing up with the animals and all that stuff, and just the trips and the excursions, because pictures last a lifetime.
Absolutely. 100%.
I mean, memories last as long as you're alive, but pictures last a lifetime.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, that's one of the things we tell people, you know, it's not just a hunt. It's a memory that lasts a lifetime, you know, and it's true, you know. It's don't matter what you're hunting, whether it's birds or deer or bear, moose, you know, it's something you'll remember forever, good or bad, you know, whether you're successful or come home empty-handed, you know. It's at the end of the day, it's, you know, everybody wants to fill their tag, but, you know, it's the memories that are made doing it. It's the most important, and who you're doing it with.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it. It's been a good conversation.
Anytime.
So what's a way for someone to get a hold of you if they want to reach out? So
you can find us on the internet. You can shoot us an email at info@foggymountain.com, or you can call us at 207-564-3404.
Thanks for joining us on Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide. If you enjoyed this, stay tuned. There'll be more to come. Until then, reminisce and think about the stories of you back at camp.